I just want to thank everybody for ruining my weekend. I had a very, very busy week and I had all sorts of things planned for this weekend. The weather's nice. I thought maybe I'll fly my drone. I need to do some minor housework. Carol knows I need to clean up my office and some other junk and everything. I was all set to do it until last night. I was picking out the pictures for tonight. And I said, oh, I should restore that one. I should do that one. So well, I am going to try to do some of my other stuff this weekend, but now I'm going to be going, oh, but there was that picture of so and such. So the ones today, like in past weeks, these are ones that I've scanned, but I've not done restores on. But there's some of them that, frankly, I couldn't figure out what they were. That's the trouble. You get the pictures you take yourself, you may remember taking or where they were. But when you get somebody else's picture, if they don't bother labeling them, it's like, where the hell is it? Particularly with the interiors of some of the pavilions, it's in some of them are in languages that I don't necessarily recognize, let alone read. So I thought if we have some success, maybe people here can help me pick out some of them. So let me get the first one ready here. You're going to see a lot of the same usual stuff. Like the first one here is going to be the Unisphere. Let me just see how I can, where the share button go. They move things around. Okay, share AC. Okay. So hopefully we all see the Unisphere here. Like I said, there's going to be some that are standard views that we're all very familiar with. And then we're going to see some other stuff, which is kind of neat. These are all just the rough scans. They haven't had the scratches out of the colors corrected or whatever. But looks like a nice day out there in the Court of Nations. Got a kick out of this one because of the Canadian flag with the maple leaf on it being brand new. Whatever year we're in, I didn't look when I particularly pulled this up. It's late enough in either 64 that the Belgian village is open, or it's 65. I just did a presentation for the Adventure Club on this international area, and Carol watched, and she said, boy, she didn't realize how many international pavilions there were at the fair. So for a fair that had the BIE saying don't be there, there were sure a bunch of them. So just got a kick out of this one if we zoom in a little bit. It's Switzerland, so I don't know what these three people down here are doing, but I look over here and I figure this has got to be William Tell. And anybody have any idea what the three people doing, making cheese or something down there?
Looks like they're playing dice.
What's that?
Come on, seven. Come on, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it?
Or they're feeding squirrels.
Yeah, that's it. Well, now I know it's 65 because the pylon on the tower is red. Someday I'd love to go back through the files of the Swiss Skyride Corporation and see why between 1964 and 65 they saw fit repaint the towers from white to red, because that had to be a non-inconsequential cost to do that, and you wonder, what particular benefit they got out of it. Looking down
Maybe they just needed painting and that's what was cheap.
Yeah, maybe red paint was on sale. Yeah, we see some houses Warner Patrol, and you go, my God, they must have gotten a great deal on bright, yellow paint. And there's a couple houses in the neighborhood that are just terrible, which made me think of when I was growing up. I came home from college and I asked my dad, "What the hell's with that house all over on Longfellow Avenue?" This guy had painted his house yellow, bright yellow with black polka dots, and he said, "Oh yeah, you saw the polka dot house." And I said, "What the hell is it?" And he goes, "People complained to the city that he wasn't painting his house and he was letting it go into disarray." He said, "Okay, you want me to paint my house?" Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, there's a beautiful craftsman house in Bluff Heights, which is all multi-million-dollar homes, not too far from me. And I was driving by one day and there was this crew painting this nice house like bright blue. And I almost had to stop and knock on the door. It's like, do you know someone's out here painting your house bright blue?
It's terrible. Yeah, what people do. Here we're inside India. And I thought this came out pretty well. I mean, like I said, I haven't adjusted the brightness levels or anything, but considering the limitations of film at that time, I thought it did a nice job. Then we go out to the Lunar Fountain. Bell system.
very dirty brass rail.
Yeah. Also, one thing you don't see a lot of at the fair, somebody walking around with a cane. He had to be very dedicated to be going around. Carol was asking the other day how large the fairgrounds were, and I was mentioning when I was there doing pictures for the second book we did, I was doing there and now shots. And it took like 6.5 hours or so just to walk up and down every street and back and forth. And that's not waiting on the line, it's not seeing any shows or anything. So, you know, as she said, you couldn't see it all in one day. I said you couldn't, it was hard to see it all in a week. It's that big.
It was 640 acres, not including the parking.
Yep. Lots of space.
That's about a square mile.
Yeah, again, that's just 1 square mile, but now you think how many miles you have to walk if it's lined with streets that go up and down and back and forth.
Are these 35 millimeter or
So these are all
something?
Instamatic shots.
I was gonna say they don't look as sharp as I would expect.
Yeah, sometimes people, you know, there were Instamatics and then there were Instamatics. That was June 65. So now we're gonna go September 65.
Bill, real
Yeah.
quick before you go to that picture, the brass rail there, if you
Yeah.
look to the right of it is the, I can't remember what building that was, but that building was in the background of that one that looked really dirty. So I wonder what the deal was, because it looks like it's in the same proximate location. See that one, but if you go back to that picture, I think it was 1 or 2 before,
Yeah.
where the brass rail looked kind of brownish color, you'll see that same building in the background, and I don't think they were that close together, were they?
No, let's go backwards.
I mean, the brass rail,
Oh, you mean the Mormon Pavilion?
no, it was
Oh, this one. Oh,
there,
here.
that one there,
Oh,
see?
Yeah, it's just
That
the
looks
way
like
that-
it must be the lighting on it. I
Yeah.
don't think it was dirty.
Due to the lighting, you can also see here, for example, the ground is nowhere near that red in reality. So when I
Okay.
adjust this, I'm gonna have to adjust this down for the color of the ground, and it's gonna take a lot of the color out of the brass rail here.
Yeah.
One thing in looking at this, by the way, if you're from New York, people, how many people from New York recognize the building dead center? It was Serval Zipper Company, and they had a big thing on it that said Serval. They no longer make zippers and announces U-Haul. So
You mean the building that looks like a church
yeah,
spire?
right. Yep. You could get a great view of that from Shea Stadium. All right, let me go to the next set here.
Yeah, Bill, you were talking about Instamatics versus Instamatics. Kodak made their higher end Instamatics in West Germany, and they were not cheap.
Yeah, no, they had Zeiss lenses. They because most of the Instamatics had plastic lenses. The high-end ones had glass lenses. Then they came out with motorized versions, and you know that they had some pretty exotic ones. Looks like not much of a line for travelers. Off to get a beer. I sure wish they had left the fountains going in this area. Maybe the water would be less stagnant than it is today. Anybody go to the fair and get a pen pal? I think I exchanged 2 notes with one of mine, and after that, no letter came in. You gave up, but that was, they said they matched it by computer, so I wonder how much they actually did on that. But it was kind of neat to get letters from somebody in Germany, and you know, I collect stamps, so that was fun. Like I said, a bunch of these are. Oh, there's the Jane Parker sign. Robert Moses. One of his many pet peeves. Mentioned before that even though the World's Fair Corporation was running out of money, they had to do a whole bunch of layoffs and everything. They really did a great job of keeping the flowers up to snuff right until the very end of the fair. That's why there were so many flowers, all that people could rip out of the ground in the last days. But rather than just say, okay, we can't afford these flowers and just put grass seed in or let it all die, they put them, you know, different flowers in spring, and they changed them out in summer, and then they put some fall ones in. So somewhere somebody was able to squirrel away the money and do it.
Yeah, and they did it through the drought too.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it definitely made it more eye appealing. Here's the Lithuanian Wayside Cross. You can see a pretty dirty brass rail behind it. This was supposed to be a permanent part of the park, and then unfortunately in 1972, one night, some vandals ripped it to pieces and literally smashed it and left the pieces lying there. The city said we'll restore it, and it never got restored. Talked about this on the talk just Thursday. One of the most boring pavilions of the whole fair, the Hall of Free Enterprise, where you went in and they talked about how necessary it was to have a great economic system, sort of thing for a 12-year-old was really snooze-inducing. So
It looks boring from the outside. I mean, it just looks dull.
yeah, they had the 12 pillars of economic freedom here. And then it said, enjoy Mr. Both, electro animated show. He wasn't really animated. It was a metal figure that stood there, and he was outside buildings that voices would come out of and talk about how business was going well because this had happened. And it was really just kind of dumb. Ask the electronic machine how we live and listen to the tree of economic life.
I wonder how many people thought Mr. Both was comparable to the Disney.
I'd safely say none.
Well, I mean, until you got in, you didn't know.
Yeah, I think they had a grand total attendance of 12 over both years. It's only because there were people like me that were determined to see every single show, no matter how bad it was.
What was the previous one? Just now I was trying to read.
This is Christian Science.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Building. Yeah.
This building after the fair was bought by a church in Poway, California, moved out and served as the church's home for about 35, 40 years, maybe even closer to 50. It finally wore out. They said they could not get a way to stop the roof from leaking. These were all glass panes. This was designed by Edward Darrell Stone.
Oh, right.
So it was a pretty significant architectural building. So the church in Poway then decided to give it away, and nobody would take it. They said, literally, you can have this entire, Darrell Stone building for $1. You just need to take it away, and nobody would take it. But a friend of mine said, I'll take one of these small pyramids, and he's got it in his backyard in the Catskills in New York as a gazebo out there now. So, but he was quite industrious. He came all the way across country, rented a truck, and drove all the pieces back, and then had fun with his local community getting a building permit to put it in and all that sort of thing. But if you go in his backyard, you can sit under a piece of the Christian Science Pavilion. This is the Vatican Pavilion. In 1965, they added a thing on heredity by Mendel. So they had a whole thing with these snap peas. And if you have this type of pea with wrinkled skin, and here's the dominant gene, and this little plaque down here below is telling us. But it was kind of interesting that they went to the trouble and effort of adding in a garden like this.
They look like begonias.
Yeah. The Paris Pavilion, they were trying all they could to get you to come in. So they ended up here with Gigi's Bar Americaine, and Gigi also had steak and chicken. Gigi must have been pretty busy, but for $1.49, let's see.
No, it was steak or chicken.
Steak or chicken. Okay, yeah. And we served with boiled potato, tossed salad, French something roll. So yeah, sounds pretty good. $1.49. Again,
Like
this was an addition for 65 that was not there in 64, and they even added things like this little kiosk out here. So they were trying to, right into the bitter end, to make some money.
It's hard to believe that they could make it look even worse.
Yeah.
Addition of those signs.
Yeah, and after the fair, the building got moved. It's in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and it's a bowling alley.
Well, that looks like a bowling alley.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just a prefab metal building. So this sign here the New York State sign evidently went up to the New York State Thruway Authority and sat on the side of their headquarters for years, and I'm sure it's long, long, long gone. So this is down at the base of the pavilion. Now we're up at the top. Looks like a good day for the time machine. Doesn't look very crowded at all, does it? And of course, the Avis ride, grandma and grandpa out here having a drive around. I tell you, you look at these pictures, see if I zoom in on this. Again, this is going to be a little on the dark side. People look so much older back then than we do now, right? We're all young, hip people. These people are old people. They're probably younger than a lot of us.
Well, yeah, you look at pictures of relatives and,
Yeah,
I would ask my mother, well, how old was, Auntie Annie when this picture was taken? Oh, about 42. It's like, really?
I know. It's really wow. You know?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go over to the next folder here. Back to 64. This is a real small one. The federal building, all those great Cowwall plastic panels. Illinois. Billy Graham. People waiting for the Vatican. And this is one, again, where is this? If I zoom in on so you can read it a bit more. This $10 copper, I don't know. Does anybody know what DALER? This $10 copper plate coin is said to be the largest and heaviest in the world.
Well, dollar emanates from Thaler, I don't know how to pronounce THALER, which were coins minted in Austria back in the 1700s.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if that had, that dollar probably all emanate from the
I
same.
didn't look it up. Did anybody look up? Don, you're always good at looking things up. Where's Avesta?
Oh,
What is what?
Avesta, it says it was minted in Avesta,
Avesta?
AVESTA, in the year 1644.
I can't look here.
So I have to find out, going back through the guidebooks or whatever, to find out, who had a collection of rare coins and that sort of thing. But again, this is the only time I've ever seen this particular one show up. So what could it buy in 1644? 2 cows.
It might be.
Can't find Avesta per se, but Avesta area is in Iran.
Iran. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding too.
Well, that's probably inside the Iran pavilion then. What Iran pavilion would that be?
I wouldn't say.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So again, that's one of the reasons I keep buying all these pictures is these things show up that you've not seen before, and it's kind of fun.
Oh,
Well,
Sweden.
Got
We,
pictures in yesterday of some of the nicest Expo 67 slides I've ever seen, and now I'm staring at them thinking, oh, I could be flying my drone. We
So
can
it's
go
a
and see
Swedish
some
coin.
puppets,
Interesting. That's Swedish pavilion.
or we could go have a beer. We could go for a helicopter ride. That's one thing I never did back at the fair. I had no budget to do it, and I was trying to save money for it. My mother specifically told me no helicopter rides. So
It must not have been cheap.
what's that?
It wasn't cheap, I imagine.
No, it wasn't too bad overall, but it's again, you put it in perspective. If I could get into the fair, 10 times as opposed to one helicopter ride, I think she was concerned if I went for the helicopter ride, then all my brothers who would want to go for a helicopter ride and need to take out the loan.
Wasn't it around $6 or $7?
Something like that. Which is, today,
Yeah,
of course,
all-
seems like absolutely nothing.
right.
It looks like they're closed today, which is interesting. This is a 64 picture. So, but looks like the pavilion is closed that particular day, or maybe they weren't open yet. Looking down over Denmark. This pavilion here in the center was originally supposed to be the Argentinian pavilion, and Argentina built it, and then they had a change in government that said, nope, not going to the fair, can't afford it. So they gave the building to the World's Fair Corporation, and the fair said, what are we going to do with it? So they scrambled and put in together the Pavilion of Fine Arts, which did not succeed, and they decided not to come back for 65. So then it became the Bar Green Buffet and the Canadian Beer Hall.
What's that building on the left with the red roof?
This one here, Mexico.
No, to the left.
Down to the left.
To the left here?
You can
Yeah.
zoom in, it says something pavilion on it.
Yes, Caribbean Pavilion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so over here in the front, the dome-shaped building was the restaurant part of it, which faced out to the Unisphere. And then down here, there was this building and another one, a mirror image on the other side with a central spine. And this particular one held the Dominican Republic, but that was all their tourism displays and everything else.
So I wonder if that's the Fine Arts Pavilion that they referred to in the Dick Van Dyke episode,
Oh.
October Eve. Are you guys familiar with that? The one where briefly, it was one of the best written shows I think ever for television. Mary Tyler Moore had posed, I think, before they were married.
Yes,
Yeah, and
he
didn't
painted her
realize
in the
that
nude.
the artist was doing it as a nude. Yeah, and
Yep.
and she discovered that, so Rob offers to buy it, and he said, no, but I'll let you choose where it goes. It'll either be the Fine Arts Pavilion at the World's Fair or a mansion at the top of a hill in Brazil.
I'll have to watch that again. You know, it's funny the things that turn up. I don't know if people remember the show The Prisoner with Patrick Wilson. I bought the box set. Carol knows I'm a nut about it. We've gone and stayed at the Village in Wales and everything, but I was just watching one of the episodes called The Girl Who Is Deaf, and they go out to this amusement park, supposedly in Brighton, England. And I like to go on IMDb and look to see, the little bits of trivia. And they said, although this says it's Brighton, parts of it were actually Expo 67. And I went, look, yeah, there's a spiral tower and there's the yellow mini rail going by. So it was shot in 67. I guess they needed some extra footage to pad it out. But, I don't know how many times I've seen that. And I never realized there goes the mini train, the mini rail. Japan Dead Center. Looks like people are coming in this day. I don't know if I'm going to go and fire up the time machine for this day. It's starting to get crowded. Look at all those people going in. And look at all those vintage subway trains, which are probably now reefs off the coast somewhere. American Israel. The police keeping us safe there. Looks like they're almost going to run some people over. As I said, I really admire the Fair Corporation for keeping the flowers up throughout both years.
And this must have been early on, I would think. Look how immaculate the lawn is.
Yeah. The Los Voladores getting ready to spiral on down. I wonder what kind of on-the-job training they get. Just one quick shot from, why somebody took one picture and that was in the box dated July 64 when everything else is another date. All these mysteries of life. A balloon artist in the Belgian village. He's obviously dressed up as a clown and making balloon animals. Again, for all the pictures I have of the fair, I think this is the only shot I have the balloon guy. I had no idea that they had balloon artists wandering around. But maybe he just wandered in that day and they threw him out. But anyway, he's there. And we have a different sort of clown, Emmett Kelly Jr., and he's enjoying a drink of water out there. I remember he was signing postcards. They were giving away free autographed postcards of him. I had no idea who he was, but I figured if he's famous enough to have postcards of himself, I need to get one. And I still have it.
Bill, do you know if those water fountains were throughout the grounds?
Yes, they were. They were
I
all.
didn't realize
put
it
in.
was, yeah, it was like an official water
Yes.
fountain design.
Yeah, official design, and a number of them are still on the site today. So a nice shot of Hawaii. This is actually from the parking lot. So as you were parking over at the Meadow Lake parking, you could walk in over at one side to go into Hawaii, or go on the other side and go in over by Florida. And I just thought this was a nice, appealing view. You know, if you were going to go into the fair, we almost always parked over by Florida and came in that side and raced through the lake amusement ground. But if you end up on the other side, isn't this a nice, enticing thing to come on in and see? And this is kind of fun. You are here. So here's the map, and we're going to find our way around the fair. Hawaii being one of the pavilions that actually charged admission, so you had the turnstiles here. I think it was yeah, it's right here. Enter here 25 cents. But for 25 cents, you got a genuine plastic lei that you could walk around the rest of the day. So even though they charge you, it was you came out with a souvenir. Looking out from the monorail as we go around the lake area. How about all these cars? Can you name these guys?
Is that so is that a
I
quote?
pass. One taxi.
Yeah, a taxi, right? Yeah.
Was that it looked like
That's a Buick in the mid to the white roof one is a Buick, I believe.
In the center here.
Yeah, that kind of funny wing thing on it. I think that was a Buick.
how
How about the one
further
below
ahead
it?
of this is there more of this slide to the left? There is that's a Corvair, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a hardtop Corvair,
Yeah.
and that's worth money now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I thought this one here in the bottom center looks like it had a very large trunk.
Either that or it was one of the small, like
Pickup?
the Ford, yeah,
Yeah.
not really a pickup, a car pickup. It's kind of blurry, hard to tell. That's a Ford or a Mercury,
Yeah.
the white car there with the white roof.
All right.
That's a Ford or Mercury, I believe.
Well, no cars here.
Good.
That's a great shot though.
And
Yeah,
then right as the monorail crossed over, and back then everybody obeyed the rules. They stayed on the sidewalks, right? Again, looking out from the monorail, I've not yet tried to figure out what this says here, but they will put different names on the side of the monorail to welcome different groups to come out here. So not quite sure what that says. I'll have to flip it around and try to work on it. So we can tell that we're into 65 because there's Big Ole over at Minnesota. And the Viking snack bar, which I showed pictures the other day, proudly served the best Viking food like egg rolls and Belgian waffles. Anything that would sell, right?
it was all about money.
Absolutely. This big it's called the Triad. The sculpture on the side of the Vatican Pavilion is up in Kennebunkport, Maine today. When we went up to Kennebunkport, my friends were very excited to bring us out to see it. It's on the grounds of a monastery.
So is it freestanding or is it on the side?
Yes,
of it?
freestanding. It's all standing. It's in a very nice setting in a field, and it's got a little plaque down below that acknowledges, that it came from the World's Fair.
It's nice that some of the items are still out there
Yeah,
50, 60 years later.
yeah, almost. Well, even last night we went out to dinner and we drove by the church in my town that has a giant World's Fair stained glass window in it. So, it's stuff's still out there. Nice clear day, but you can just see off to the side here, LaGuardia Airport.
Another good time machine day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Vatican, and the Belgian Village.
Was this also Instamatic or 35?
Oh, this is 35. When
Yeah,
they,
'cause this,
these, whoops, I'm flipping around there. My mouse is being really sensitive. The the ones that are rectangular are generally Instamatic. I'm sorry, 35. The square ones are either Instamatic or something like 127 format. But the rectangular ones here, yeah.
Is that red and orange, I'm sorry, yellow and
Okay.
red, was that a walkway up to the entrance of Vatican?
Let's go back there. Let's see, did I get the right ones? I might have actually quit out of here. Okay,
Oh, yeah, you could see it there on that one, it was, yeah.
this one?
No,
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vatican, there was
Yeah,
had the colored tiles going in.
okay, yeah, it never
Actually,
really,
they weren't tiles, I think was just painted on concrete, but that was the
yeah, it
wall.
looked like when you were scanning through just a second ago, there was a ground level view of the Vatican, you could see the
Right.
painted walkway.
Totem poles came from the 1804 World's Fair. If you go to the the Totem Pole Museum in Alaska, they're there today, along with the ones that they carved for the 64 fair. Well, wouldn't it be nice if that roof was still there?
oh yeah. It's a shame what it
Cut-
looks like now.
Yeah,
Looks so nice and clean in that shot too.
yeah, really, it's looking nice. The
It looks
Belgian
like
Village-
stained glass.
What's that?
It looks like stained glass.
Yeah, yeah,
It was all plastic, fiberglass.
yep. The Belgian Village I thought was really neat to go in because I didn't think I'd ever get to the real Belgium at that point. But again, money's everything, right? So at the Belgian Village, what are we looking at here? Treasures to see, magic of the cultured pearl. The guy that had the owned the Belgian Village was so desperate to get anybody in that you obviously have some things at work. European crepe Suzette restaurant and the Wooden Shoe restaurant, and of course the very authentic Les Snack Belge with barbecue and spare ribs and chicken. But yeah, he was just desperate to put anything in that he could fill the space with. But I still thought it was an absolutely marvelous time when you went into the Belgian Village. Again, just you didn't see the rest of the fair, you didn't see the rest of Queens. It was a very immersive environment, and for a whopping quarter to go in, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Plus you could get waffles.
Well, yeah, they were another $1, and you could get waffles at other places. Like the other day when I was doing the thing on the international pavilions, I was showing how the Polynesian restaurant served Pacific, waffles. I think they had pineapple chunks on top of them. The Golden Dandelions at Kodak.
That's cool.
Yep, they're in Rochester in the Rochester Institute of Rochester. I should get the exact name of the museum. It's RI something. Anyway, you can go and see the Golden Dandelions today. So yeah, some things have survived. Couple shots from 65. Nighttime. Goodyear passing over Korea. You're gonna see, like I said, that you end up with dirt and stuff like here in the cloud. That's real easy to fix. Taking the light struck part out is a little bit harder, but now she's 27. See, people put all of it in.
Maybe 127 now.
Oh
I
God,
bet she's probably in her 50s, I bet.
probably.
Yeah.
This was 60 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I hear my flying club flying overhead. Everybody's trying to ruin my weekends. Give me things to think about other than this. Back to the Instamatic world. Those fountains were truly impressive. I mean, they were
Looks
very
like
wow.
looks like a
Look at all
tsunami
that
wave.
water.
It's a tsunami wave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So this plaza was all like inset, like
paving
hexagonal
stones, yeah.
bricks, whatever, yeah.
But where is everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
these stones, you can still go out there and the area is still paved this particular way.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
I would assume by now they just would have paved it over with asphalt.
Someone would come in and steal them.
Yeah,
A lot of those stones have been stolen out.
I haven't been out there in a while, so I'm not sure.
There's a lot of them missing.
we were there last summer and the whole fountain area is just fetid. It's disgusting. Hey, don't touch the dinosaurs.
They bite.
Yeah. I still remember when we went to see this guy being built up in the Catskills, and you know, it was the first experience I had of looking at a World's Fair exhibit, and I was just hooked. If they were going to have things like this at the World's Fair, man, I just had to go.
And now it's down in Glen Rose, Texas.
Yep.
Yep, I have seen him.
Did you think as a kid, Bill, that you would be here 40, 50 years later doing this?
Yeah, I know. Nobody could have predicted it.
And that you actually made a career of it,
Yeah.
publishing, talks?
Let me get the next one here. I think there's some in here that are going to need some help identifying. We're back in '64 when this was the Pavilion, and it was Winston Churchill. But in this particular or this whole week, as a matter of fact, they did Queen for a Day. So if people remember the TV show, they would go and pick several housewives out of the audience, and then they would name somebody Queen for the day, and she'd get free stockings and hair dye and an electric toaster.
Jack Bailey was the host.
Yeah.
And
Albert Fisher. What's
the
that?
female commentator that did the fashion show was Jimmy Cagney's sister.
Oh. Well, Albert Fisher, who was in charge of TV work for the fair for the '64 season, was instrumental in working and getting the show shot out there. And one of his proud possessions is a picture of him sitting in the throne for the Queen for the Day.
Yeah, Jack Bailey was one of the first celebrities I remember having on a flight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was going Sacramento to LA. I can't remember what, I'm sure I talked to him, but don't remember what he was doing.
That's kind of neat. Nice busy day for the Skyway. Quite a few cars up there. I believe this is Ford. They use these mirrors as you went into the escalator that took you up to the Magic Skyway. They looked like they went off into infinity.
Oh, yeah.
Guinea and Sermons from Science. Inside Ford. They were much more entertaining than Mr. Both was. Out here would be about where we ended up parking. So it was always get in, run through, get your free orange juice at the Florida Pavilion, come in, run across, and go see the good stuff.
You never see a cloudy day. It's always a clear sky.
Well, I've got some pretty gray and gloomy days. So a lot of people didn't take their cameras out if it was raining, didn't want to get them wet. So this is the Cougar 2 concept car inside Ford. Okay, this is one we need some identification on. Anybody able to place the instruments or the religious figures or anything else, or the writing up top here?
Can you zoom in on the bottom?
Asian, other than that.
Looks Asian. Yeah, it looks like from India.
I was going to say that looks kind of like, sort of like Sanskrit, maybe. the writing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure if this was, is India or Indonesia?
Looks Thailand.
Could
Thai.
be.
Yeah, kind
The,
of.
the trouble is that the Thai pavilion didn't have any big space like that I know of. You know, I even try to figure out what's looking at the window here. So I'll stick this on what you call it, Facebook, and somebody will instantly say, you know, oh yeah, I know what that is.
And there's no more picture at the bottom. This
No,
is the full frame because there's some writing on the.
The tablets on
Very
the
bottom.
bottom left.
Yeah, I don't think you can go any further.
no,
Can you zoom in on the bottom left?
Yeah,
That's
but
all
that's all
that
you
you
can
go.
see.
Those photos or engravings?
Oh,
it looks like photos. So we don't know where that one is, but the next one's another kind of interesting rare shot. This is the backside of the Festival of Gas. Everybody knows the big building with the cantilevered roof across the top of it and the restaurant and everything
Right.
else. But this is a whole thing here. See if the signage tells you much about it. It's a whole thing here about a gas turbine and how you can use gas turbine for a total energy system. And in here, they were using gas to turn around. They powered the pavilion by running the pavilion off of this gas turbine power system in the back. So down below here, there were all sorts of displays you could look in, and we're talking about how gas was extracted and refined and transported in that. I think this guy here, he's looking for a quarter he dropped. They're doing some work here. You can see that they've got some forms, and I think it looks like they're still looks to me like they're putting the walkway in there finishing, but he's doing some work down here, and they got these wooden forms. But yeah, shots of the backside of the thing here are very unusual.
I don't think I've ever even noticed that building in an aerial shot.
Yeah, you can spot it.
Okay.
This is the air conditioning plant that ran, you know, for the pavilion itself. They made a big thing about how you burn gas and
Right.
the heat makes things cool. If you look over here, again, trying to date it, all sorts of construction material and everything is still stacked up and everything. So,
Yeah, it looks like they're working on or putting concrete down over all that gravel, that white gravel.
right, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Looks like somebody left his shoes there.
Left the shoes.
Look in the middle of the picture, right there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
boots.
a pair of boots. He stepped in the concrete.
Didn't want to get his
There was-
new work boots dirty.
Yeah, and
There were
here's the
more
Festival of
jokes said
Gas
about the
again.
name of it. Everybody joked about the name of that pavilion. That was
Yeah.
the biggest joke.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad pavilion, I understand though.
Sudan, they had their small zoo out back. This is probably the best shot I have found so far, taken by an amateur of Mr. Lincoln at the fair. They made a big thing about, you know, no flash photography, and people back then, if you made that announcement, they stuck with it. But this is the unrestored version of the picture. I thought it came out quite better. I mean, usually it's very dark and you don't get anything in the side here. So I don't know what kind of camera this guy had or the film he was using. I guess I could take it out of the mount and look and try to find out the exact film. But I was very pleased to finally find a nice shot of Mr. Lincoln.
Bill, will you make any attempt to sharpen it?
No, this is just a shot straight out of the.
But I
only
mean,
thing that I've done
will
on this-
you, or you've already worked on this one?
No. This one basically was done with the scanner color correction turned on, but that's all. I always scan them twice, once with color correction on, once off. I can generally get better results with color correction manually than the scanner will do. But on this particular one, this is the scanner version of it. But it's not been sharpened or brightness adjusted. It's basically the raw scan straight out of the scanner.
So do you
That'll
ever
Green.
put
that'll
the
look good when you
photo-
clean it up.
What's that?
That will look good when you clean it up.
Yeah, it should look pretty nice.
So do you ever attempt to sharpen in Photoshop or?
Oh,
no?
yeah. I generally do a small amount of sharpening. They have what's called the unmask tool.
Right.
The trouble with the scanner taking out all the dirt and scratches and everything is it tends to make the images look just a tad soft. So I generally use a very small setting on almost every one of the pictures to try to take out these, or put back the sharpness that the dirt part of the scanner takes out. But I try not to make it noticeable. I mean, some people really over sharpen stuff. And
Yeah, I just started using Topaz Labs has a new sharpening tool, and when I went to Expo 2020 in Dubai, I had my autofocus turned off. I didn't realize I did. And probably about 20 pictures came out, about like this, not quite sharp enough.
right.
Put it through this sharpening tool, and most of them came out good. A couple of them will look over sharpened. Yeah, they look artificial.
Yeah. Some people just crank it all the way up. If, by the way, you are trying to figure out whether the other building where here's the Festival of Gas and here's the
Oh, yeah.
conditioning system on top of the turbine facility.
You notice the guy just threw his axe and it's just about to hit the target?
Yeah,
You see the axe?
this is actually a pretty good distance away. Again, the camera really collapses things, but the Mormon Pavilion is a fair distance away from here in the
Oh, now I see the axe. Okay,
Yeah.
I took me a while.
Oh,
to
Axe.
Yeah,
I don't see the axe. Where is it? Close
at the
to
top.
very top.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's in the air. Okay, yeah.
right here.
Oh, yeah, there it
The
is.
blurry axe, yeah. So these are
Oh,
all
yeah.
actually a pretty good distance away, but they all get collapsed, with the telephoto type lens. But yep, the axe is on its way. And
For
back,
an amateur, you got a
Dan.
good shot.
yeah, and again, this has not had any sharpening or anything done to it. You can see how nice the letters down below are nice. I always thought these birds had one ferocious look to them that I would not want them pecking on my window asking for peanuts.
They look kind of prehistoric.
Yes, they do, don't they?
What kind of bird is it?
They're called hornbills. I forget the exact name, but they're again from Sudan. Yeah. Do you have something there, Wayne?
There's shoe bill.
Shoebills.
storage.
Yeah, shoebills. Thank you.
Shoebills.
Yeah, thank you.
So that one is named Susie.
Nope, this is just right out of the camera. Haven't done
No,
any.
no, no.
Oh,
it
yeah,
says
the name.
Susie. Yeah, the name.
Susie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Susie.
Susie Shoebill.
Susie and Bill.
yeah. And we don't know what this guy's name is. I'll look for him in another picture. This is outside the Greece Pavilion. They stuck a number of sculptures out around, and I was quite surprised that these things survived. That you'd think how many people would be idiots and go and sit on it and get their picture taken or do something dumb, but looks like it was held up pretty intact.
Wonder where it is now.
Yeah, I have to look that up. Mermaid by N.
Wouldn't
Karras.
mind having that. It's a nice mid-century.
Yeah, looks kind of neat. I like the patina on it.
Looked like it was copper and it had tarnished.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Another one, where are we? I have no idea. So someplace with an old galleon.
Time machine again.
My notes for this particular set say see slides, and on a bunch of them, people did write down what they are. So I've got to go and dig this set back out and see if he wrote down what this galleon was.
So that's not a model of either the Santa Maria or the Bounty, right?
I have no clue. It's not the Bounty, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah,
It
definitely
looks
not the Bounty.
It looks
Look at the rigging
Spanish.
on it.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the Santa Maria, or it could be the Nina, the Pinta. I don't know what the main.
I was wondering, I mean, could it be as part of, the Santa Maria exhibit that was
Look at all-
over in the amusement area?
Yeah, because the
Look
very
how much
next
rigging work
picture,
is on that.
I think we're in Spain right now, so it
Yeah.
could have been there. If we look
Oh,
at
Yeah,
Right.
Goya,
we now have an R-rated show.
back to the Timber Carnival. That's the trouble. Sometimes these pictures are in order and you can say, oh, the next one must be this and that. Other times they're just all over. If they have numbers on them, I will go and try to sort them out and put them all in the proper order. But sometimes they're just, when you get them processed, they didn't have the date, the time, or anything on it.
That sure looks like Kodachrome with those.
Yes, I believe these are
Yes.
Kodachrome.
Yeah.
And the Axis land.
Ah,
There it is.
Yeah.
It's a split second later.
off to off to Lowenbrow. How these women can carry all that beer is beyond
Why
me.
is that guy holding that jacket up against his face?
Probably just taking it off, or maybe he's shy. Oh, you know what it is? I know what it is. He says, I don't want anybody to realize I'm back here with my time machine.
Is that Lyndon Johnson behind him? That's Lyndon Johnson.
Just looked like.
This guy looks like he's really waiting for his beer.
Well, that waitress is really an amateur compared to
Oh,
October.
yeah.
Oh,
When I
God.
went to Oktoberfest, I could not believe how they
I
could
know.
carry all that stuff. I
Every
mean,
time when one would walk by, you'd like, she's gonna spill at least one of those on you.
yeah, just amazing how they could do it. Yeah, she's only got 3 in that hand. She's a piker.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, have at it.
I know
Volkswagen Bug in the middle.
Yeah.
I know this one. It's a Volkswagen
Let's
Beetle.
see. Is that a Riviera to the right of the Volkswagen?
Yes. The red
Yeah.
one, yes.
Yeah, that's a
That's-
Riviera.
That's a Riviera.
An Impala, the red one?
That's an Impala
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
So that
that's a-
Chrysler product on the left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what do you think it is?
In the lower left, is that a Chrysler product of some sort?
No, I think that's a Falcon
No, I-
because of the tail lights, the round tail.
How about we switch over here?
Chevy,
Yeah, and Cadillac.
Cadillac, and
Cadillac.
and
Yeah.
black,
Even I could pick that out. The emblem on the front there.
the grill work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A nice pleasant day
That's a
outside the
great
Vatican.
picture.
Think how many people drove by that ferry day and never gave a thought to going inside.
It's hard to believe.
I can't imagine that.
I mean, it was such a fantastic looking architectural thing to look at. Weren't they curious to see what the buildings were? No.
Yeah. Freedom of the human spirit still there today, and it's been moved, but it's still in the park.
What were the attendance numbers, Bill?
About 60 million for the and they were expecting 74 million, so that they were off by quite a bit.
Wasn't it just over 50, like 52 million or something?
Yeah, I've seen all sorts of different numbers. How much of it were paid attendance and free attendance and that sort of thing.
Yes,
They
attendance.
were off by quite a bit. Africa. Get off the grass.
Of course, the one that has to really be the most off was Expo 2000 in Hanover.
Oh yeah.
That was, of course, the days that I went, it was packed.
Well, you just wonder who got paid to come up with some of these numbers. This is the Protestant Orthodox Pavilion.
Like to have
Is it
that.
really bright for an indoor shop?
Yeah,
What-
it came out nice.
What does Methodist information mean?
Well, as opposed to Lutheran information.
They're different.
How about Jewish?
They're totally different.
Yep. Nice shot of Lowenbrow there. Inside Chrysler. Like I said, they hop all over the place. No particular rhyme or reason to them. But this set was processed in June '64. Now we hop over to May '65, and one of you guys ordered some food. She's bringing you your sandwich. Should be a waffle.
It's a great picture of that plaza.
Well, like I said, I enjoyed it in there. It was very immersive. You could just see a little bit of the New York State Pavilion here, but for the most part, I would daydream and think I was in Europe.
I might have mentioned this before. I'm Facebook friends with Debbie Turner, who played the second of the youngest daughter in The Sound of Music. They made patterns of the costumes that they wore in like the more looking costumes that they wore in the
Oh,
movie.
can't have it for my,
And the kids actually went to New York and they photographed them in the Belgian village. She had posted the picture one time on her Facebook page. I said, "That's the New York World's Fair." She said, "How'd you know that?" I said, "Well, I didn't go, but I've seen pictures of it." She, "Yeah, you're right. We went before it opened in the morning, and when they shot it, and then they allowed the kids to run around the grounds during the day."
I actually have seen one picture of that, but I didn't know where. Maybe I've seen it on her site, but yeah, that they did it back there. There was also some film that they shot between seasons, between 64 and 65. Somebody shot a movie there. I'm trying to track down where, again, they were trying to pass it off as the real Belgium. And you figure for the guy that ran the pavilion, if somebody wanted to come in and rent it for a day in the middle of the winter, why the hell not? Good deal for him.
Wasn't that go stop motion animation movie filmed there?
Which one?
Oh, it wasn't the Hanna-Barbera. It was gosh, these do Christmas specials, anime Christmas specials. The Dreamer was the name of the movie.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, right. Yeah. The one that Joey Vento has a copy of. I gotta get it.
Yeah. I have a copy of a DVD of it. Yeah.
This could be right out of the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. They had the exact buildings, this open bar with a striped awning. I mean, when this guy copied the 33 fair, he really went out of the way and copied, because these were the same molds and everything that they used to make the buildings for 33. You wonder who put them in a warehouse and kept them for 30 years.
Was that scanned with auto color on?
These are all scanned with the color correction on by the scanner. So again,
Okay.
they're not finalized, because again, the buildings and everything, the ground wouldn't have been quite this blue.
I wonder if was this an addition? Because look how faded the umbrella in the front is.
here's some shirts.
That's
Yeah.
what I
I
was thinking.
think it's just the auto colors, all that
Green, you mean?
yellow and red.
What? Green
It said
shirts?
it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And colorful street musicians. You can get your paintings done. Silhouette portrait cut in minutes by whatever her name is, Laura or Blue or whatever. But yeah, and 75 cents, not a bad deal.
And I think everybody had one of those. So I
Yeah,
know
I'm trying to figure out what
we,
she's doing here with a rubber stamp.
well, oh, so they didn't have passports, did they, at the New York
No.
World's Fair? No.
No. So I don't know what she's sitting here. She looks very official with her rubber stamp, and I don't know what on earth she was doing there. I mean, it's whether you paid and they paid somebody else and she stamped it, or I don't know, but I just know she's sitting there with a rubber stamp.
Were you
That might
allowed
be a
to?
stamp for readmittance type thing.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah. Could you go in and out once you paid your admission?
Maybe it was the readmission sort of thing. Could be. Waitresses at the Wooden Shoe restaurant. And again, we hop right over from ancient Belgium to concept cars. Anybody else have a three-wheel car in their driveway?
That's GM, right?
Yep, GM.
Mhm.
Maybe I wonder how hard it is to park a three-wheeled car.
Should be able to turn on a dime.
Yeah. I tell you, it's one of the things we drive these little BMW i3s on patrol, and you can turn them on a dime, but then you get into a regular car and you have to turn. It's like, oh man, I don't have the same turning radius, but we love them. I mean, you can almost make it rotate without moving. They're really, really neat. Back to the Protestant Orthodox Pavilion. So if you were done getting your Methodist information or whatever, you can come over here, and they had different displays for all the different various religions. And next showing, what is Christianity? It's free. Let's go. He doesn't look like he has much business, does he?
The whole building looks empty.
It's funny, this is over at NCR now. They had the display of cash registers. I think of all the pictures I posted on Facebook over the years, the ones that got the most interest were picture of kids with the cash register, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, I can remember doing that," and people just loved it. And you just put in whatever numbers you want, rang the thing, the cash drawer would pop open, and off you'd go. But to have for a kid to be able to work on this thing that only adults could do, I guess it was kind of like a empowering sort of environment. But kids sure loved it.
Even for adults, I mean, how many of us would have had the opportunity unless we worked in a job that, had one of these?
Right. I still have some of the paper tape that I ran through. And we're back to the gas pavilion. We have a cutting edge display here of water heaters. So again, this is what I have fun out of it. All the pictures I have, this is my only picture of the water heater display. Not that it means anything to anybody, but it's just kind of different. You can see the stylized force up here, which they had on the outside. They had a carousel going around, and here's their symbol for the thing.
I love the way they decorated with the little dingle balls on the display stands there.
Yeah,
Those
these,
dingle balls, right below in the front.
Oh yeah, the little fringe things, those red.
Yeah, fringed. Yeah.
Look at the base of each water heater, you'll see them.
Yeah, on this card.
oh yeah, right. And did you notice over here? We have a seal balancing a ball on his nose. Because when I think of water heaters, I think of dingle balls and seals,
Oh, and they're sitting in. So is that water they're sitting in with the fountain?
Yeah, it's water, and you can see people chucked coins into it because that's mandatory whenever.
That was the way to cover up the fact that the water heaters leaked.
What's that guy doing up on the ladder?
Or maybe they heated the water in the fountain.
Yeah.
What's the guy doing on the ladder? See the
He's
guy
a
up on
statue.
Oh, it's a
I think it's
statue?
like a circus themed, right? With all the acts.
He's the ringleader.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Got a couple of stewardesses in the background there.
Yeah.
Looks like.
No tankless water
Well,
heaters
these are the
available.
hostesses from the pavilion.
Nice
Yeah.
uniforms.
Yeah.
I love doing that. I belong to several stewardess uniform Facebook pages, and I love taking Expo 67 hostesses and saying, which airline was this from?
Oh yeah.
One gal actually figured it out. She said, I went to Expo 67. I know that's where that's from.
Okay, we're 65 here in Winston Churchill's study inside the Churchill Pavilion.
That's cool.
Yeah, it came out kind of nice. Again, this is not restored.
Didn't see any cigars there.
They were probably locked. They're probably okay. You want to see cigars?
I see
What
the
is it,
box.
Oxford?
Yeah.
Here. Oh no, it's books. I thought it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
box.
Yeah,
Where's the
Almost
ashtray?
fooled us.
No, I don't see any cigar humidors or anything. So maybe they're inside of the desk drawer.
Were the furnishings actually the real Winston Churchill furnishings, or do we know?
They supposedly they were, whether they were or not, because you wonder what they left behind in Blenheim Palace when they took it out. But supposedly these are his books and his furnishings.
Okay.
This is a fun one. This is Denmark. This is part of their playground. I've got pictures I showed the other day of kids all climbing on the fake little pretend pirate ship here, but you could come and park your kids while you went in and had a nice meal. Or you could take them out here into the playground. In the background, you can see a very large slide. You would go up here and come down and do it. And then they had, jungle gyms. Today, of course, you'd have to have a safety net or something. I wonder how many people climbed up it and fell down. But right over, very modern looking chairs, and you can see something over here with an interesting shape, which shows up in the next picture. And that's the Lego table. This was the American debut, apparently, of Lego sets, and they would come in here. You could build. They had some built ones here to give you inspiration, but you could build whatever you wanted. The caveat was you couldn't take all the blocks home with you, but you could go buy a Lego set at the gift shop, and they came with a sticker on it that said, you know, a souvenir of the 64 World's Fair. And apparently in the Lego collector world, that's a very high in demand item because it shows the you know, the year they came out and gives you some cachet for having something. But you can see, well, everybody could sit here and dig into the blocks and have fun with it. So think how many parents have stepped on Legos as a result of what we're seeing here.
I could tell you if we had gone as a family, my mother would have steered us away from that because we were never allowed to have anything that had lots of parts.
Oh, yeah. And they also had another playground. I forget which pavilion this was off the top of my head. I ought to know because I put it in one of the books. But you can see the signage here. Children's Center rates 50 cents for the first 2 hours and 25 cents for every hour. And after that, if they wanted to go to the craft shop, it was 25 cents extra. And they were open noon until dark. So a great way to bring your kids. Didn't look like they had too many people, but a couple ones here in the background playing and having fun. And their parents are probably off at Lowenbrow or Rheingold or something else. And the kids are probably just as happy to be here and not being seen. They're very happy because they didn't have to go see Mr. Both. So
Yeah. Look how dirty the fence is. It's all algae on it.
what's that?
Look how dirty the fence looks. It looks like canvas panels.
Yeah, it does. I guess the dirt gets picked up.
Gold or mildew.
And that wasn't the NCR pavilion, was just on the right side of that slide.
Yeah, that's NCR over here. And I don't know who this was in the background. Like I said, I have to go read my own book. I did mention it.
Yeah.
And then the Hall of Science. Again, this needs to be color corrected because the building is, you know, gray concrete, not, you know, gold, but it was probably taken near sunset at the end of the day and picked up the full light.
You can't tell in the photo that the inserts were blue glass. You have
Yep.
to stand inside to see the effect.
Yeah, it's a neat effect when you go inside.
Yeah, it really is.
Cobalt blue color.
And over to Lowenbrow.
Oh,
There's NCR again off to the side. This one is kind of an interesting view because it caught something that generally not seen. The USO Pavilion. In 1964, there was Macy's Leisure-Rama, where you could go in and they could buy everything in the house and all the furnishings, and they were very proud right down to the toothbrush. Well, it turned out most people didn't need to buy a house with a toothbrush. They probably already owned a toothbrush. But this was opened up in 65 to become the USO Pavilion. In 64, there were cars in the driveway. It was made to look like a typical suburban home. It was so typical that nobody took any pictures of it other than Albert Fisher. He's the only picture I got from him of Leisure-Rama. But here's the USO.
It was nice reuse of the building.
Yeah. Here's this is a rare picture of our politicians in DC, all horses' ass.
the southbound end of a northbound horse.
Yeah,
Oh, not a couple of beers.
there's a couple, and they had dark beer. Yeah, ugh. I am not a stout fan or dark beer fan.
Yeah, not either.
It's all a matter of taste.
Yeah.
But there's a gray day for sure.
Yeah, a bunch of clouds out there that particular day. That was May 65, by the way. So now we go in. Where are we eating today? I don't know. There's nothing. Oh,
Cigar.
Yeah, that's a big ass cigar.
Olive Heinz
Figure out
ketchup.
where we are. He bought these.
You think that yellow stripe roof awning or canvas would be very noticeable?
Yeah, I've got to look for that. I think
In an
this
aerial
is near
view.
Spain. Now here's the sort of thing where I'll have to go and work on it. You can see there was some dirt over this lady's face, and I will do what I can to you know, fixing the hair is kind of easy, but then you have to fix the glasses and stuff like that. And I get a kick out of it. It's sort of a challenge to work on them. Sierra Leone, this wall shows up in other pictures, so it's kind of a way to identify it. Another interior one that needs some help. So somebody has an oil refinery. Anybody recognize anything else that brings it to mind?
Very industrial. At least they're proud of their industry.
Yeah. And it gets so frustrating. You see a sign like this and you go, oh, can I read it? And it's just, you know, just a little too blurry.
Well, zoom in a little bit more on that front card. I think I might be able to get something out of that. A sharpener would work on that, but no.
Yeah. Now this gives some help here. India.
Mahatma Gandhi, yeah.
Yeah. So this way, maybe India as well. I'm gonna have to see if they're sequential in their numbering.
Hold on, go back one. Okay, yeah, it might be. This is just off to the left of the other picture. So you get it. I think it might. This picture might be off to the left of the one in the next picture. See how the color.
Oh yeah, see that
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. It's not
The
the same
background.
light, but the lighting's sort of same. So it
Yeah,
might.
very similar.
The slats.
Bill, why don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
post
definitely
its
India.
history?
India.
Definitely
Yeah.
India, yeah.
Yeah.
With KTU
Bill,
phone equipment.
This one's kind of different because it's the Modern World's Fair, but they've got a dial phone. I mean, everything else at the fair was touch tone, so don't know why she has a 5-button key set phone. What's scary is I actually have the manual for that in my garage. Also, what they call Bell System Practices.
That was KTU equipment, wasn't it?
Yep, yep.
Phone
So
freak
maybe
time.
that they had a PBX inside their pavilion that wasn't touch tone, and you know, maybe an internal line only, but go back.
Bill?
Why don't you post some of these unreadable signs to the site so
Yeah.
sleuths can work on them?
Well, that's the other thing that my week can get ruined. I keep promising Wayne I'm going to do some more CDs soon, so I've got to do it. I've got so many of them.
Bill,
Yeah.
going back to that children's playground, I did a little research real quick, and that may have been the Denmark Pavilion.
I don't think the Denmark one where it said 25 cents for the craft lodge and everything. I think that was something, a different pavilion.
Okay, well, I was just
Well,
looking at
that's
some of
the-
that furniture that was out in front of it. Looked that kind of Danish modern styling.
Right.
Some concrete statuary. So when I did this, it said Denmark had a children's playground.
Yeah, that's
along
where we
with
saw the fake pirate ship and the slide.
Oh, okay.
Legos.
All
That's
right.
at their playground.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
Legos. Yeah.
Then we have Ben Franklin for the electric Tower of Light, the Electric Light and Power Pavilion.
Yeah, that was their show, their Holiday of Lights or something.
Yeah. They did a different show for 64 and 65.
I didn't know that.
And the same guy that has the gazebo in his backyard has one of the Ben Franklin light figures. I mean, he wrote to the people saying, I really loved your pavilion. Can you send me a souvenir? And when they took down the pavilion, they took one of these, put it in a very large wooden box to protect it, and sent it to him. And he still got the
Wow.
original packing crate. But yeah, I guess they were so touched that, you know, a 12, 13-year-old kid said, I really enjoyed your show, and can you send me pictures of it? They sent him a Ben Franklin. So
Wow.
it's really cool to go to his house. He's got one of the stars from the Astral Fountain mounted to the wall, and he's got a whole bunch of really, really neat stuff. And he just sent letters to all the pavilions, and a number of them sent them pieces of stuff. So kind of cool.
Imagine the value.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see so few because it was indoors. You see so little about that show in the Tower of Light.
Yeah.
Cool show, apparently.
Now, this is a nice shot looking down at the amphitheater, you can still see the sign in the front here for Leonardo's Wonder World, with the big awning they put over it. You can see though why it was not so popular, because look how few people are getting ready to go see the show. They're out here telling you it's really great, come on in, and there's no line or anything. So nice view of the lake and the Santa Maria out here. But this is a helicopter shot going past it. It just didn't last very long. There's again the parking lots on either side.
And imagine how miserable it would have been sitting in the sun during the summer.
Oh yeah, it got really hot. And it's also the guy with the Bell jetpack would he'd fly from here across here, and this roof just kept all that noise just reverberating. So
Oh, my.
the thing, if you sat here, you burned. If you sat here, you went deaf. Inside the U.S. Pavilion,
It's greatness.
my mother's favorite store, the Hummel Shop.
Was that in a pavilion or was it?
This was in the International Plaza. They had a small section there. Chrysler. It's really nice if you see this in a movie. These are all being hit by water and spun around by water power. So all the flags where Chrysler did business. And we're over into Ireland now.
It looked like the helicopter was just coming down for a landing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Bill, the choices of helicopter rides, was there just a scenic ride, or did one went to JFK, I believe?
Yeah, they had a scenic ride, lasted 15 minutes, and it basically went in a circle, came around, and landed. The other one, they had service that they went from JFK airport in. That was basically a one-way, trip. If you went back, you bought another ticket, but it wasn't they didn't take you from JFK to the fair and back.
Yeah. And the Pan Am building wasn't built yet, was it?
No. The Tower of London. Yeah, the Hummel Shop was right down here. This is the sort of buildings you got in the International Plaza. More of the Swiss Watch Pavilion. Things that you would not have at a World's Fair today. These are all the backside of lockers and a mailbox, because now today idiots would put bombs in them. The courtyard at Spain. Somebody was more interested in tourists than the dancers.
Was the Swiss flag at half staff there?
Oh yeah, it does. I wonder why. Good catch. I know when Gandhi died, that a number of the or was it Nehru? Yeah, died. A number of the India Pavilion had their flag at half mast. I know a number of the others did it in solidarity, but I don't know if that's when this was taken.
When did Churchill die?
Oh, it was after 60. I don't remember exactly when that was.
It was during the winter between the 2 years.
Okay. That's why they converted the pavilion to the
Right.
church exhibit. Just see if you can see that yellow striped roof anywhere.
Yeah, well, let's see. We zoom in. We got a nice, kind of clear day for 64. You can see the Manhattan in the back. Here's the Christian Science Pavilion that we mentioned earlier, and then over here, this is the Garden of Meditation. I forget what pavilion was supposed to go there when they pulled out the fairground. The Fair Corporation said we need to do something. So they put a small pond out here and made it the Garden of Meditation.
Let's go meditate next to the off ramp.
Yeah. It's still there though, right? All that stuff is still there.
The pond is gone, I believe, but the stones that they put out with things to make you think and everything are out there. Up here is the Hall of Free Enterprise. It's again just drawing us in. I'm looking for that roof and I don't see it.
Yeah.
Again, you only see particular parts of things here. So there's Kodak. Sermons from Science, Guinea, Japan, Japan, number 2, Austria. Nope, can't quite do it. Down here, maintenance building, hardly anybody ever has pictures of that, but there was a major maintenance building on the opposite side of the park, but this was one they had here.
What are the brightly colored awnings just above the maintenance building?
Good question. I'm trying to see if I can remember what that was.
Is that Pepsi right
Pepsi.
next to it? Yeah.
It's Pepsi. Yeah. So here's the big yellow ball, red, white, and blue ball up here for Pepsi, and these are over the snack bar area over at Pepsi. Here's the building itself for Small World. So that's the end of that one. You figure, you know, they take all these pictures and they take one, you know, 2 nice helicopter shots. And we bop over to Greece. Not sure where she is.
She almost looks animatronic.
Yeah, she does.
Looks like, you know, these ginseng roots or something.
Could be
Yeah,
Sri
some,
Lanka.
yeah, some Asian pavilion.
Yeah. Outside of Africa. Obviously, we're in Switzerland. They were very proud. They had $2 million worth of watches on display. In other words, 3 Rolexes.
There's a great, big, beautiful
Beautiful
tomorrow.
tomorrow. And there's the Sky Dome Spectacular, the fusion generator.
Flash of light.
Yep. Nice shot here of the
Ready?
Tower of Light, ready kilowatt.
That's a great shot, man. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, this will look nice when it's worked on. You know, again, I can darken the you know, the overdone parts here of Ben, and his face and everything will really pop out.
That is cool.
Belgian Village again. This is a rare shot of 2 teenagers at the World's Fair. And you could go and buy yourself some giant, authentic wooden shoes. I always wondered, were these made over there and brought over here? Most likely, because I don't know where you'd go for a large supply of wooden shoes in the US, but
I wonder if anybody dared wear them around the fair for the rest of the day.
oh my God.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
Bill, could that be you?
Oh, it could be, but it's not. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be about the right age at that point in time. My parents, we went over, I was working in I think I was in Germany. My parents are going over to Holland, so I met them over there for a weekend. And my mother was really thinking about buying a pair of wooden shoes, and my father was telling her she had a wooden head. But they were the obligatory pictures that they posed in for a giant, oversized pair of wooden shoes, and it was a fun trip. I mean, how many times do you have a chance if you live in LA and your parents live in New York to get together for the weekend in Holland? You know, I took advantage of my job and where they were, and their friends got a real kick out of it. Your son came over for the day to have lunch.
That brass rail restaurant is almost black.
What's that?
That brass rail restaurant is almost black.
Yeah, it could be some of the shade too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's shade.
If we zoom in, can we tell what time of day it is? Yeah, it looks like 12:30. So I've mentioned
Probably a
before, I
weekend.
think my uncle was in charge of the crew that linked all these clocks to the official time clock at the Swiss Pavilion. So between seeing the dinosaurs up at the you know, studio when they were being built, and my uncle come and say, "You won't believe what we did today or what we saw," or anything, I was so hyped to go to the fair. You know, it was a foregone conclusion. It was going to be very big on my list for 2 summers. Yeah, that was September '65, so that is very likely a very dirty brass rail. And we hop inside the Vatican Pavilion, this altar in the same glass as a church in Groton, Connecticut today. Back then, if you notice, this was still when headwear was required in the Catholic Church for women, so they I've got a picture of one shot. I don't know if it shows up today, but a woman with a paper bag on her head.
My mother and all my aunts always kept a handkerchief in their
Yeah,
purse to put on their head. Yeah.
yeah.
Is it still required?
No, not
I think
after
was
years.
it did Vatican II
Yeah.
got rid of that? I think, yeah.
Yeah, they said, oh, we're not going to do it in Latin anymore. You don't need to wear things on your head. You can eat meat on Fridays. And I remember thinking, all these rules are changing, and who changed them and who put them in place in the first place? So
You still need to cover your head when you visit the Vatican, though, right now. Like I know, because my wife had to.
oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Being a guy, I didn't remember that.
They give you something to put over there, but yeah, they want you to cover your head when you visit the Vatican.
Let's see if we can see what's on the menu here at Cafe La Belle Epoque. Sauerbraten, bratwurst,
Beer.
yeah, beer and bratwurst, yeah. Coffee and tea with milk, okay. And that
Coke and soda.
Coke and sodas. So Coke and sodas, interesting.
Well,
Important
Not a
here.
soda.
They're 25 cents for the Coke, which is really expensive
Yeah.
for them.
zoom
I mean,
in?
I think McDonald's, was 10 cents for a
Can you
Coke.
zoom in?
Yeah.
Didn't know you could make beer out of imps.
Let's see, what is the second there? Kessler Ripchen? I don't know what that is.
Yeah. What the heck? It's expensive though.
Well, how much was the Sauerbraten?
$1.50, I think it said.
Yeah,
Yep,
That's-
or $1.80.
yeah, I think I can't tell.
Oh, yeah, it looks like $1.50.
180.
That's
The
one of my,
bratwurst was 80 cents.
that's one of my favorite dishes.
Oh, is it? Great.
I love it. Yeah.
Over to the right here. Animated figures, they had music boxes. People looking at their maps and where to go. But again, you would never know you're in Queens, would you?
Shame they didn't leave that off. It would have been quite an asset.
Yeah.
What was that going back? When was it the Devil's Head Cafe?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was actually a restaurant over in Belgium named that, and they came and built an outlet here. Whether or not this was connected to the same one or somebody just copied it, but yep, Devil's Head Cafe, and it's you can't see it well in this picture, but there's a red-faced devil on it.
Kessler Ripken is smoked pork chop.
Oh, okay.
That sounds good.
Did they use the second floor of these buildings for anything, or are they just dummy floors?
No, matter of fact, there's somebody that posted online how she and her girlfriend came to the city, and they had money for like one night of a hotel, and they didn't have money to stay after that. But some guys that worked at the Belgian Village said, "Hey, we'll let you stay in the buildings overnight. You just can't come out and be seen, by any of the guards." And they spent about four days upstairs in one of the buildings. Some of these shops were never used for anything at all. Even on the ground floor, they were just not let out. But upstairs, I don't know of any of the buildings that had anything that actually came to be upstairs.
You go up in the tower?
No, the bell tower, you didn't go up there, and there were carillons that ran there. I mentioned in my talk the other day, that building, the bell tower, had a steel frame to it. A lot of the other buildings had wood frames, and UCLA did a study after the fair ended of what an earthquake would do to a steel frame versus a wood frame building. And they put pressure transducers and literally shook the building to pieces, measuring how much the building would sway and whether or not steel construction was better than wood construction. The other interesting thing about the bell tower is the day after the World's Fair ended, they came in to start outfitting that building to do the shaking, and the bells were gone. Somebody had gone into the building, cut the ropes, the bells dropped all the way to the ground, and they spirited them away, and they were never found. And that was one of the things the guy said, I've already sold the bells to somebody. And they said, well, they're gone. This next picture, by the way, solves a mystery we talked about earlier. And somebody had a very good guess. She's there to
Oh,
stamp your hand because there's the exit.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Bill, what would you think that like were 50% of the shops occupied, more or less?
they got to about the 75% level from what I could tell.
Yeah.
They did have big plans for 65 because so many of the space. When the guy was building this, he was really behind schedule. So he was breaking lease agreements with people left and right, and they were suing him left or right. And there's a fellow that's on Facebook. His uncle was the guy that built the Belgian Village, and he said he was still being sued 20 years later.
Wow.
But they had a big plan to save the Belgian Village for 1965. So one of the big empty buildings was going to be a Playboy club. And all sorts of discussions on it, and then Robert Moses heard about it, and he said, "No Playboy club. I'm not having half naked women at my World's Fair." And that guy ended up with yet another lawsuit in his hand for breaking that particular lease. So, but yep, there's our rubber stamp gal. Now we know what she's doing there. That must have been the official outfit because she's wearing the same thing and
Yeah.
very far apart. Okay. Yeah, it's May of 65. And we got one last batch here. Denmark, very striking, modern, sleek building. Another gift shop with lots of brass stuff in it. I hope I can figure out what it is someday.
Crosses and chalices.
And
Interesting.
JFK,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fish.
The Venezuelan pavilion in the front here. Hong Kong behind it. Nice shot. They got both parts of Thailand. I was so flabbergasted. Oh, this gives you an idea of what the scanner. This is no color correction on. Here's color correction on. Again, I'll go back. You can see it kind of blows out this archway here. It gets a little light. So that's where I can use tools in Photoshop to bring this back down and take out some of the correction. The main mall.
Another time capsule day.
Time capsule.
I'm sorry, time machine.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
How'd they take that helicopter ride?
This was a Swiss Sky Ride.
Looks awfully high.
Yeah, it went up very high. I think it was 183 feet. Display area over at Thailand.
Mexico.
Yep, Aztec calendar for 64, and the Olmec head was here in 65. And that does it for the day.
Imagine if they had drone photography, the pictures you could have had today.
Oh, goodness. I'd hate to think if I had digital photography, I would, what you call it? I think you have to edit the name. Oh, it's fixing Urs' name. Vested dollar, Swedish copper plate money. That'd be interesting to know if that's in the Sweden pavilion then, huh? Scott, how do you host a session and doing an EMS reunion? Yeah, I'll be absolutely glad to do that for you, Scott. No problem at all.
I like Darren's screenshot right now. It's cute.
Yeah. Oh, could I do a show on The Prisoner? Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love The Prisoner. When I saw it in 1967, when it came out, it was just like mind-boggling, and watched it and could not figure out some of the episodes, particularly the last one, which I watched again 2 nights ago. But Carol and I were up in Wales, and we had the opportunity to stay at Portmeirion, the village where it was shot. And it's it was built by this fellow William Clow Ellis, and he just was a collector of stuff. And he'd go to a estate being torn down, and he'd buy the roof of a building, and then he'd build a building to go under his roof, and then he'd get a statue and he'd put that out there. And it's a holiday place where you go during the day and you pay admission to go in, wander around the grounds, and then they check you out at night, or you can also rent a spot to stay there. They have a hotel, which was used as the old people's home in the show, or you could stay in these local little things. So Carol and I went and stayed there, and at night everybody leaves, so you're walking around this deserted village, and it's really pretty, but it's so far north in Wales that it was still light at 9 o'clock at night. So you go into the building that is the town hall in The Prisoner. It's a restaurant, and you go in there, and they're always showing an episode of The Prisoner, and you go into the bar, and they're always. And what's really kind of neat is that a lot of the people that live in the area played extras in the village. They'd be, some unnamed prisoner walking by with a umbrella or whatever, and you're sitting there in the bar and at night, and people are just sitting there waiting, but it's just such a cool spot to be there at night and walk around, and if you know the show at all, you just thinking about the giant balloon, the rover coming at you. Yeah,
Awesome.
certainly could do a whole. We've been there. We stayed there one time, and we visited other times. And when we were there, there's an episode of The Prisoner where a cat's the central figure in it. He wakes up in a deserted village, and the only thing that's there is a cat. And he's trying to figure out what happened. Well, when we were there was a cat. So I've got a really nice picture of Carol feeding the cat, and they've got the little taxis, the mini moke taxis. So I'm sitting there in the taxi like I'm, it's a great spot. I'll be glad to show those some random day.
Bill, Patrick McGowan did an interview a week or two after the final episode, and he said he had to disappear because people were literally chasing him down because they couldn't understand what the final episode was. Who was number one?
That episode was insane. I just again watched it. I over the years, Patrick McGowan, I loved him as an actor, and he was in Scarecrow of Romney Marsh, one of my all-time favorite Disney shows.
Oh yes. Oh
And
yes.
he was also in the 3 Lives of Thomasina in that. And I wanted to I had a whole bunch, Carol again, Carol is such a saint for putting up with this stuff. We went over to Romney and found the church where they shot the prisoner, the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. She's out in the car with our daughter, who was like 8 months old or something at the time, and I'm in there deacon out of this church and everything. But I had all these pictures of the Scarecrow, and I wanted to see if I could get McGowan to autograph them. And this guy said, "Okay, I do know him, and I will give you his address, but don't mention The Prisoner. It will set him off." So I said, "Okay." So I sent him a bunch of pictures of the Scarecrow, and what I did was I had copies for myself. And I said, "I don't know if you have these in your own collection or if you want them or whatever." And he wrote back a very nice letter. I was, very pleased to get your letter, and it was a exciting show to do, and Mr. Disney was wonderful and everything. And thank you for the extras. So I said, "Okay, he's being nice." And I then sent another letter saying, "Oh, I found some more pictures of the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh, and if you thought you might want one of those." And we just spent a lovely weekend in Portmeirion, and I was wondering if you could sign the enclosed picture from me. And he happily signed it and sent back a note and said, "Yes, Portmeirion is a lovely place. I must go back someday." So I got 2 or 3 letters from my hero. But again, how do I get him to sign a prisoner picture without?
Not sending him off.
My friend was, "If you ever tell him I gave him your address, gave you his address, I'll kill you." And I said, "Okay, I won't mention." He never asked, but he was a very mercurial actor. And you watch the interviews of people on The Prisoner, and some people absolutely hated him because he was so demanding and such a perfectionist. But a great show.
He
Speaking of
also
this-
did, he held the record for doing the most Columbo guest shots. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was
Yes.
friends with
Yes.
Peter Falk.
really,
Yeah, he was good friends with Peter Falk, right? Yeah,
speaking
no, I mean,
yes.
again, I was talking to somebody the other day about collecting stuff, and I have all these Boy Scout patches and doing all this stuff, and I'm lucky that my job took me to places like if anybody has ever been to Wales, it's a lovely spot to visit. if you like slate colored, stone. I mean, Carol and I were driving them by, and all the hills are just covered in slate, I mean, from all the mines and everything. But it's got some neat steam trains that you can take and some other things like that. If you've been all over, Randy, have you been up to Wales?
I have never been to Wales, Scotland, or Ireland. Yeah.
We stopped at one place, we were taking a trip and they were doing sheep shearing and okay, going and you have wool and you don't think about it and you go on for the day and they got the sheep and shearing it down and the kids got a real kick out of that and they okay, give you a clump of wool to take home and everything. But the worst trouble is trying to put addresses into the GPS. I mean, every town in Wales, you go to the Blaen Elf Stiniog, I mean,
Then you mistype one letter and you got to go back and figure out which of the 32 letters you mistyped.
well, the one that has the longest name in the world, which I cannot pronounce, but it's like St. Mary's Church by the hollow of the swirling river. I mean, it's the line at the train station is almost as long as the platform. So Carol,
Speaking of
do you have any
Disney
memories of
movies,
Wales you'd like to share?
I was just gonna say, we asked one of the people that worked in the shop there to pronounce the name of the town.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
No,
okay, just speaking of Disney movies, going back, have any of you that work for Disney ever met Haley Mills?
yeah.
How was she?
Oh, absolutely lovely.
I had such a crush on her as a kid. Every movie she ever made, I had to see, and I've rewatched them all multiple times. I love that darn cat because I think, she and Dorothy Provine are so cute together, and that's one celebrity I wish I would have had on one of my flights.
Yeah, she came back to Disney to do some Parent Trap remake movies for the Wonderful World of Disney, the anthology shows, and she very. It's always nice when you meet somebody and they're actually nice, as opposed to sometimes you meet your heroes and you go, oh God,
Yeah. I actually ran into her sister, Juliet Mills, literally ran into her. It was on a New York line, it was in Times Square, and she and her husband, Maxwell Caulfield, were walking, and I walked right into them. I mean, we all probably knocked each other over. They were so apologetic. I mean, of course, I recognized both of them immediately.
Well, you should have told them, being British, they were walking on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Oh,
Randy,
Bill,
I felt
on
the
that
same way.
I was going to say that one last option on that playground was the Hall of Education. Does that sound right?
That's it. You got it. It was the Hall of Education. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I was going to have to go read my own book, but you saved me the time. By the way, Brock, I started going through your stamp thing. I'll finish going through it, but great stuff, and I'll finish. Like I said, this week was just insanely busy. You keep thinking, I'm going to get everything done, and then stuff comes up, and between Boy Scouts and the LAPD, the last couple of weeks have just been wackadoodle. I may have mentioned Cody's not on. I got her box of slides, but for the Boy Scouts, I made the offer. If you have any slides from our Boy Scout camp, I'd be glad to restore them for you. And this guy wrote and said, "Oh, I have some. Can I send them to you? And you can keep them after you've done." And I said, "Okay, sure, I got it." And in came the box, and there's about 450 of them. So it's the 1989 is very well documented season, and it's actually fun because I've been doing them in batches, sticking them on Facebook on our alumni association group, and people are trying to name who that was and that sort of thing, and people, oh my God, I was so thin back then, stuff like that, and so just all sorts of things going on. I do intend to try to do some films for next week. I've got some really fun ones. One that I've been looking at for a long time. Vacation Highlights of the Magic Kingdom #2. I had #1 forever, so this is Walt Disney World Attraction Highlights, and it just shows how it goes. I've been looking for it forever, guy had it in Canada for a really good price. I got it, and of course, 2 more copies showed up this week on eBay. I mean, you look for something for 10 years, you can't get it, and then, you know, like I said, luckily I didn't pay a fortune for it.
Is that a Super 8 or?
Yes, it's Super 8, yeah. This particular one is a silent one, but it's featuring the Country Bear Jamboree, the Carousel of Progress, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Submarine Voyage, and Space Mountain. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Super 8, the difference between Super 8 and regular 8 is just amazing. The you know, the image size, I think, is about 20% larger, but it just really makes a big difference. And then I've got some more 16mm films I got to do. So all the stuff I was going to do this week and did that I hope to do next week, and I probably won't. But I
Does,
do have
does
movies
scanning,
next week.
does scanning 16mm or 8mm with a soundtrack, is that any different? Maybe you're just scanning the image, right?
8mm was done with a magnetic soundtrack, 90%. First of all, most 8mm silent. Super
Right.
8 was when they added a magnetic soundtrack to it. There are some very, very rare 8mm films with an optical soundtrack. The scanner I have does not do magnetic soundtracks. So when I do it, I have to take out my trusty 8mm projector, run the film on that, record the sound off of that, and then scan it. With 16mm with optical, it's really kind of neat to do it. You overscan the film so you get the soundtrack as part of the image. And some college students wrote a program, I think it's called AEO Light, and it reads the optical soundtrack and turns it back into audio. So I generally will scan the film twice, once just the image and then not the soundtrack. Then I'll take the other one, put them together. And it does a really bang up job. You tell it to adjust for whether it's 16mm, 8mm, because the sound and the image are recorded on different parts of the film. It's not simultaneous because the sound head and the lens and the projector are 2 different paths. So, but this AEO Light, you put it together and it adjusts it and, you know, puts it all together. And so that works very well for 16.
Do you get many of the Super 8 magnetic sound?
Yeah, I have quite a few of them. And again, I have a sound projector. I take them out, and what I've done in some cases, it gets so frustrating. You go and you do the silent version, and then you end up getting the sound version. But you can't just go and throw the sound on top of the restored one because they run at slightly different speeds. So you know, it's 16 frames per second for silent and 24 for sound. So you've got to do another scan of it. But yeah, things. The mail lady came today with another box of stuff, and it's like, wow, yeah. I have to live to be 100, or you know, if I'm ever going to get through some of this stuff. And I got this eBay addiction.
Bill,
So-
have you ever gotten a what was Polaroid? Was it
Polavision.
Polavision? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
You gotten one of those?
Yeah, and that was really hard to do. It came in a special cartridge that you had to break out of the cartridge to be able to do it, and the colors didn't hold up very, very well at all. Over the years, everybody was trying to make things easier. Like at the Instamatic, you put it in. It was Technicolor came up with a whole thing where you would put your films in a cartridge, and you could just plug the cartridge into your projector and not worry about rewinds or anything else. And another fellow from Boy Scouts said, "Oh, I've got some movies, and could you restore them for me?" And he had a whole bunch of stuff, 8mm Super 8, and a bunch of these Technicolor cartridges. And the only way to get those out, because they're spliced together in a continuous loop, so I had to take the cartridge and literally break the cartridge apart, find out where the film is spliced together, and do it. And one of them, I was so frustrated because I worked really hard to get this thing out and put it together, and it turned out to be a Disney cartoon somebody had bought and stuck in a Technicolor cartridge. And it's like, I just spent how many hours gluing this thing back together? But And there's all sorts of weird formats. There's 8.5 mil or 9.5 millimeter, which was popular in the UK for home movies. And so I have a movie here of this 33 World's Fair that somebody shot a 9.5 millimeter that I don't have the capability of doing. Oh, just look at Darren's picture, Carol. Carol, look at the picture for Darren up there. Carol's been addicted to watching MASH lately.
Oh, I love this show.
Yeah. So he's got a picture of the final scene as they fly off. You're
I
muted,
didn't
Carol.
know that was MASH. I was looking at Charlene, sorry.
No problem.
When I first saw that picture, I thought maybe it was like a World's Fair construction photo until I saw Goodbye. Yeah.
Nope, recognized it real well. The most
Hey,
watched
speaking of
episode of TV
celebrities,
at the time.
Loretta Swit was not nice. Had her on-
No.
No.
Really?
Yeah, not
my
nice
goodness.
at all.
Carol, my wife likes that show too. She watches
You
it all
know,
the time.
it's funny, I used to watch it, and then just recently I was going through the list of what you could see, which is not a lot of good stuff. And I saw MASH on MeTV, where I used to watch Green Acres. Now that's gone. And I realized what a good show it was.
It is because it's amazing. The humor, the jokes, everything holds up today.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know, it just doesn't. It feels ageless. Where so many of those shows that were popular then,
They're
sitcoms.
really dated. Yeah.
Yeah, you just go like, that's funny, or boy, you can't say that today.
Yeah.
Carol's
Yeah.
mentioned that we like the show Murphy Brown. You watch it now and you go, what the hell?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
one of my favorites originally.
Yeah,
But it doesn't,
Same
that
with-
one doesn't hold up because it was so topical at that time.
yeah,
Mhm.
same
It
with
really-
me, Carol.
it-
Yeah, I love that show, but
Yeah,
tried watching it in reruns. I mean, we understand it, but have your
well,
kids
even,
watch
yeah,
it.
but even with that, even though we understand it, it's just not timely at all.
Yeah.
But then you got other shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show that'll never go out of style, and I Love Lucy that
Yeah.
will never go out of style except for the fashions and things like that. So I guess maybe the quality wasn't the same for that show.
Well, it's, again, they went with topical humor. And back then, a joke about Tip O'Neill is funny. Today they mention a joke about Tip O'Neill. Who the hell?
No
is
one
Tip
knows.
O'Neill?
I like the Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason. Remember that show?
Yeah.
One of
I
these
didn't
days,
even care
Alice.
for Jackie
Pow.
Gleason, but
Yeah.
Right to the moon.
To the moon, Alice.
Somewhere.
They went-
I
they
put
went to-
that in the same category as the Three Stooges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they went to the moon and found evidence of an alien being. And when they examined it closely, it was Alice Crandon.
I was just gonna say, cartoon someplace.
There's a meme that
The
pops
people
up
with-
on Facebook every once in a while that
Yeah.
shows astronauts on the surface of the moon. There's Alice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
You actually get people who go to the address that was where he lives. And there is a plaque of the guy who owns the house. And said,
Really?
Ralph
Where the Crandons
Crandon
lived?
didn't live here.
Yeah.
Didn't.
And at
I
the bus
don't
stop,
recall them ever giving the address of the Crandon's apartment.
People do that with the I Love Lucy apartment, and it's in the middle of the East River.
yeah.
Well, they
There's
actually have a
a
bus
statue of
depot.
Ralph Crandon at the Port Authority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they have a bus depot in Brooklyn named after him.
Yeah,
The MTA actually did that.
crazy
100%.
world. Well, next week I intend, if all goes well, to have some movies. If not, we'll have something else. I keep asking Carol if she'll read us her poetry.
I don't think I have an hour's worth of poetry anyway.
Depends how dramatic
I
you
do
are with your
actually, but-
pauses.
What's that?
It depends how dramatic you are with your pauses. If you
Oh,
did it
right,
William
right.
Shatner style of poetry, I went to the field and I saw a flower.
Shave, you can't serve snacks and refreshments with these talks.
What's that?
Can you serve snacks and refreshments for next week?
Yeah,
You need to bring your own.
Oh, rigor.
we're coming up, by the way, on St. Patrick's Day is coming up to our anniversary. Maybe I'll just do all wedding photos that weekend. So, it's,
What day is your anniversary? What day is your anniversary?
it worked out totally by coincidence that we got married on St. Patrick's Day, because people always ask me, why'd you get married on St. Patrick's Day? I said, I'm Irish. That way I can't forget my anniversary.
My anniversary is March 21.
But Carol, on that particular day, and she didn't have it on for the ceremony, but at the reception, she's wearing a big green button that says, "Today I'm Irish." So we
So
made an honorary Irish person for the
So that's a March 17th, March 17th.
Yeah,
March 17th. Yeah.
Mine's the 21st.
Oh,
Carol, what's your maiden name?
my maiden name is Muller, Muller. My parents both came from, well, my father's name came from Vienna, Austria. And so
Escaped
his
from the
name
war.
was Hans Heinz Muller, and you can't get any more German than that. However, he was Jewish, and that didn't work so well.
which is
Yeah.
why they fled over and came over here.
Yeah,
No
Have you
relation
ever
to
been-
Robert
Have you ever
Mueller.
been to Vienna?
I'm sorry.
Have you ever visited Vienna?
I have, yes. And I had one relative that was left there still, and they showed me around and they showed me where my father grew up. They didn't know my mother's family, but they showed me where
Nice.
my father had lived in Vienna and all that. And Vienna, of all the cities I've been to, seems the most in the past, or seemed that way, but this is now a number of years ago. I don't know why. I mean, London, it's been around there forever, but it didn't seem like it was stuck in the past like Vienna.
I think in Vienna, you just don't see as many modern buildings.
Well, it
Maybe
wasn't as
that's it.
damaged during
And
the war.
every second building in Vienna is a Denkmal, which, you know, thinking of who had lived there in the past. So it was in the past, but it was interesting to see anyway. And I got introduced to goulash soup and Sachertorte and things like that that are, you know, from there.
That's one of the fun things about Vienna is the sidewalk cafe society where, you know, you go have your tort and your coffee or tea or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right. In fact, my grandmother used to host bridge parties in restaurants there when she lived there. That was a whole different world. I mean, women couldn't do much at that time. So she used to get bridge parties together and for people that wanted to play cards.
Now, Beth, behind you, is that Austria?
No, that's Norway.
Norway. Okay.
Oh, I love
Look at the
Norway.
mountains and a village down below.
The views.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Oh, pretty. Yeah.
Did you take that photo, Beth?
I did, yes.
Very nice.
yeah.
Oh,
I've never
nice.
been up that far north. I've been to Denmark, but never to any of the other Scandinavian countries.
Oh,
Norway's
just
beautiful.
gorgeous.
I was lucky enough to be there I was traveling that summer with a friend, and we actually stayed in Stavanger, which was the third largest city in Norway, which was like 50,000 people only. But it's a beautiful country, and everybody speaks English there too, so it's really easy to get around.
I was working in Oslo, and we went out at night to a restaurant which was right at the Olympic ski jump. And it was really nice because you're sitting in a restaurant and there were people practicing ski jumps and doing things. But it was really funny because the manager of the office said, "I don't know how to ask you this." I said, "Ask away, what is it?" He goes, "Are you in trouble back in the home office?" And I said, "Not that I know of." "Why?" He goes, "They never send anybody over here to Oslo, and they certainly don't send them in winter." To me, I loved it. I was over there in summer and winter. I was basically all seasons. But if you're gonna go to a place like Oslo, be there in winter and go to the ski slopes and all that sort of thing. It was very, very friendly country.
You've never lived till you've had like 36-hour layovers in Fairbanks in the middle of winter. You know, and you're walking on what you think is the sidewalk, and you realize you're in the middle of the street because there's like
Yeah.
frost all over everything.
Well, if you go over to
I say
Norway,
we do a world's tour with Bill. Like you can do your talks, but we'll be like we'll start in New York, of course, and then we'll head over to Europe. It'll be a cruise. It'll be easy.
you know, I
I'll
was
do it.
very lucky because when I got the job at Warner Brothers, I had been at Disney, and it was nice because my job I'd work a month at Disneyland, a month at Disney World, a month at the studio, move around. And then I went to Warner Brothers, and I thought, okay, all that's over. And within a year, they said, okay, you're now in charge of the IT systems around the world, and go at it. And I had a staff in London, I had a staff in Tokyo, and then we would go to different countries to put the computer system in. So I'd have to go over to like Oslo, meet with them and try to figure out, okay, how do you run your business in Norway? And how's it different from Sweden? Because we're going to have to customize the computer system for you. So I'd basically go over for the kickoff meetings, figure out what we needed to do. I'd send my staff in, we'd do the work. I'd go over for a progress report at the end of it, and then we'd have a big celebratory dinner at the end of it. And it was really great because I got to go all sorts of places that I would never, ever, ever have been able to afford to go on my own dime. And, people say like, have you been to, Rome? Yeah, 14 times, I mean, that sort of thing. And then again, I was lucky. We were just talking about it at dinner last night with our son, because he remembers taking some of the trips when he was very young. But as I got older, what I could do is Warner Brothers, I had in my contract, I could fly first class US business overseas, but I could then downgrade my business ticket and buy a coach ticket, or as many coach tickets as I could, pay the difference. So Carol would come over with me, and then Margot when she was born. So, Margot thought she was in Europe before she was a year old. And, she just thought everybody did this all the time, right? I may have mentioned we had one time American Airlines was having a special. If you flew from LA to Chicago, Chicago to London, you could get a business class ticket for the price of coach. So I said, oh, that's great. So I can get 3 business class tickets for the price of my business class ticket and go. And we got on the plane. It was really nice. They had these lambskin seat covers there, and they came by with fresh baked chocolate chip cookies, and everything was very, very nice. Super, super promotion. 6 months later, we're going back over again, and they didn't have that promotion. So we got on the plane and we're walking to coach. And Margot was about 4 years older, so at the time, and she realizes as we're going from business into coach just what a downgrade it is. And I want to sit in those seats and everything. And she made a big fuss about it. And so during the meal service, the waitress hostess was very nice. She came back and brought Margot a fresh baked chocolate chip cookie to make up for being in coach. But Margot, she was so spoiled. She just thought, this is the way we do it. No, that's not the way the Cotters do it. We're going to do it the cheap way.
Yeah.
Randy, you may recall this being in the airline business. Do you remember, I think it was Western Airlines did the commercial where somebody gets on board the plane and they're very, very nice and they're smiling at everybody. And he comes on board and hands the ticket and, oh, thank you. Oh, you're back there. And he goes to the back of the plane, he opens the curtain, and there's this toothless hag stirring a pot. There's chickens and goats right
it
here.
wasn't Western, and that's who I worked for before Delta. I got to Delta merger. I forget who that was. It might have been Hughes Air West.
Yeah, it was great because he's standing there and he's at the curtain. On one side, there's a piano bar and people are serving champagne. And the other one,
it's like benches along the side. And...
yeah. I thought it was one of the most clever ads ever. They said, our coach isn't as good as, as business, but it's better than other people's. I thought it was a wonderful ad. I got to find it again.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of that. Is it Wendy's? The one, is swimwear, is evening wear the Russian fashion show? Yeah, I can see a couple of people remember that. I think it has to do with making choices, so they're showing this Russian fashion show. It's the same outfit every time. This is swimwear, this is evening wear. It's a great ad.
Y'all remember that? Is it Carol Burnett? It was a skit where she was on an airline and they were doing like economy and where they had ropes as fat as seatbelts. Was it Carol Burnett? Am I making this up?
Yeah. That was when National Airlines came out with its no frills service. They were the first to do that. It was, you could buy obviously first class. There was no business class domestically then. Regular coach or no frills. And I know Western, when I was with them, we tried the same thing, and it was such a mess because the coach people got food. Back when you got food, you'd have to buy food and all that. But the first 3 rows were Western's version of no frills, because that was the non-smoking no frills. The last 3 rows of the airplane was the smoking no frills. Of course, people would get smart and start changing seats there were empty seats. So we'd have to actually make it now. So you have pull out your ticket, you know, if you want to eat, because we got to see, you know, if you're entitled to a meal. I mean, they gave us a speech, the spiel that was a little more tactful, but it was a headache.
Well, there was
I'm
a
glad the
news
airlines-
thing. I was gonna say, there's a news thing I saw. This was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, of a company that was actually developing seats for an airplane where you stood and sat in this saddle-like thing. Did you see that,
Right.
Beth?
Yeah,
And it's got something like 50% more people in the airplane, but it's like, can you imagine flying anywhere, sitting in a skinny saddle like that? I mean, but especially if it was a rough landing, I think it could be pretty
It
hurtful.
was kind of like it would kind of like be sitting on one of those roller coasters where you're kind of sit, you know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
you're
Yes,
kind of
it's
sitting on a
stand-up coaster.
bicycle seat
Yeah.
basically. And there's
Yeah.
someone else who has come out with one in recent years where you're double stacked.
yes,
You got a seat down
Yes.
here and a seat up here.
Yes.
Yeah.
no, it's. Yeah, I tell you, one thing I'm glad is the airlines went to non-smoking, because I can remember, I flew for one flight, I forget where in Germany, and this guy was smoking these Turkish cigarettes. They were incredible. But Lufthansa was brilliant. They had the left side of the plane was smoking and the right side of the plane was non-smoking. So you could be sitting there in your seat and the guy right across the aisle could be, you know, then it was. Then another time I got on the flight, they had smoking in front and non-smoking in the back, and it was like, the laws of physics, where's all that stuff gonna blow and go? So
Well, Bill, that side and side thing, we were always told, although Western never did it. I think they may have tried it before I started flying. That was the best for the air circulation. Apparently, it drew the smoke away better from one side to the other. But the fact that you're looking at somebody smoking, you know, 3 feet away from you,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it was.
Yeah, I worked in that. Let me tell you, in fact, right now I'm involved in a study. I just started it this week. It's being done up at the University of San Francisco, and they're actually flying me up there and everything, putting me up. They've gotten a bunch of flight attendants who worked in smoking sectors. They're doing MRIs and everything to see how our lungs look. I know I already have nodules on my lungs, and my doctor assumes that's from working and smoking and also living in a smoking household. They're not dangerous, they're just there.
Mhm.
So
Well, up near where we lived in the Sierras, they had one of the Indian casinos. It was just a metal butler type building, huge one. And they had a dining area that only had a little 3-foot high wall that separated it from the casino area. So you could be watching people gambling. And because it was an Indian casino, they didn't have to follow the no smoking. They've changed now. They don't allow smoking, but at that time they still did. So you could smoke in the casino, and then they had a back area of the restaurant where people could smoke back there. And then in the front area between the casino and the smoking section there was the no smoking section. So guess what? The whole thing was full of smoke all the time. It was kind of a joke.
That's why I don't go to places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone to some casinos where you walk in and they have the non-smoking section. But you know, I guess the last time we were up in Niagara Falls, we went into one of the casinos there, and it was like, oh God, let's get back out of here, because people sure do love the smoking casinos.
yeah, I could remember when I would, you know, be using a pass when I guy that used to travel with all the time. We'd get to Atlanta, you know, Delta's big hub, and the only way we could get on the flight was to sit and smoking, and we'd look at each other and say, no, let's go someplace else.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did it once, and it was just horrible.
when I was in Japan, one of the people was complaining that there was something wrong with their PC, and I said, oh, let me look at it. And they took it open, and it was less than a year old, and it was so filthy inside because the Japan, they just absolute chain smokers. And I'm looking at this, I mean, the whole plastic was yellow, and you know, and I knew when I bought these things, you know, that the model was new and everything. Within 1 year, I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, what are my lungs going to be like after working in Japan for a month? You know, I mean, it's just terrible.
That's how the mechanics, you know, we would write up a pressure leak the older, like 707s and DC-8s would develop them after a few years. They were usually around the doors. The door wasn't seated quite properly. It was seated enough to be safe, but there might have been a little gap at the corner top. I remember one time I'm back there in the galley and mechanics on working this before boarding. And I'm looking at him. I said, well, how do you really find out where it is? He said, look at all this brown and yellow goop down here. That's nicotine. And we just follow that, you know, then we know that's where the leak is. It'd be like a quarter of an inch thick.
When we lived in Japan during Tokyo, installation of, Tokyo Disneyland, Diane's parents came to visit us and we went to Nikko. I don't know if you've ever visited there, but it's like going to the northeast, the northeast for fall colors, beautiful area and all this stuff. And we rode the train to get there. And of course it was Japanese train. They did have a no smoking car, which on the trip home we got in, but her parents, they said there was no other room. They had put them in another car ahead of us. So once the train took off from the station and it was a nonstop flight, or I think it was one stop in between Tokyo, at any rate, there was like nobody in we were one of 10 people. I mean, one family group of 10 people total in this car. So I said, let me go get your parents and have them come back with us because, so we can visit with them some more and stuff like that. I had to walk through a smoking car to get to their car. And it was like, when I went to the connector section and into that room, it was like a foggy morning down at LAX, when it's the ground fog is there. I mean, you just walk through the smoke. I couldn't even see the end of the car. And it's just like, how do people live in something like this?
They get to smoke for free.
Yeah, that's how the wide body planes were, like the DC-10, L-1011 is, you could stand halfway, through the airplane, which was non-smoking, but look towards the back and you couldn't see the lavatory doors at the back of the airplane.
The Long Island Railroad had smoking cars, and when you'd pull in on, standing on the platform, I see Scott shaking his head. You'd be waiting on the platform, and the thing would pull in, and you'd realize, oh, it's a smoking car, and you'd fight like to go down the aisle. But every now and then, that was the only damn car you could get into, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
You remember
the doors would open and smoke literally came out of the doors.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they had the bar cars. You remember those?
They still have them.
They still do? I thought they got rid of them.
Well, you can buy your beer before boarding.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
But
you
they
will
used to have
see
a bar
literally,
right on the train, and a little bartender and the guys would come in and they'd serve them beer, and so the guys were smoking, drinking, and everything. It was like, oh man, I don't want to be in the bar car. It was just.
So now you buy your beer and take it to your seat.
Yeah.
Your passenger seat, as opposed to sitting at a bar. Okay.
but you'll have a guy who will have 3 cans of beer with him.
Yeah.
Well, Carol and I stayed at a motel in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. They have the railroad goes through there, and they have the train museum, but they have a hotel which is all cabooses, and you go there and you can stay in the Reading Railroad, or they have one painted as the Long Island Railroad. They have one that's really cool. It's painted like Lionel. But we checked into the thing, moved into the room, and it stunk. I mean, it was just terrible. Remember that, Carol?
Vaguely.
Ionizer.
I was thinking of our car trip down to San Diego with your grandparents.
Oh my God, my grandfather was a chain
It was like
smoker.
that.
And he was a chain smoker, and he just kept lighting them up. And he also he never met something he didn't like to stop, hit the brakes for. So you'd be riding in the car, and he'd be slowing down, and he didn't do it, subtly. It'd be, that sort of thing, all the way to San Diego, and the smoke-filled car. And we got there, Carol was like, "Can we fly home?" Like, oh, it was terrible. And then you have a nice weekend, but you know what the ride back's going to be. But yeah, we stayed in this motel, and they had to bring this de-ionizer device and let it run while we were at dinner, because they said that we don't have any other motel. And the kids thought it was great, sleeping in a caboose. But they said, yeah, people aren't supposed to smoke in them, but they always do. So
It's still there. The Red Boost Motel or Hotel.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah, it's great.
It's in the midst of Amish country too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's in Lancaster County.
Yeah.
about 5 minutes from Lincoln Highway, which is the main road going through Lancaster City and Lancaster County.
Yeah,
through,
that's US 30.
right. Yeah, you've got Bird in Hand, Intercourse, Red Ball, I think Red
Blue
Ball,
Blue,
or
blue
Blue
ball.
Ball, Blue
Yeah,
Ball,
roll.
Bird in Hand. It's actually Bird in Hand's beautiful. There's some very nice places to stay there.
Yeah, we went to a all-you-could-eat family type buffet there. That was really nice, and they came out with big platters of stuff. So
Family style.
At the Shady Maple, the world's
The
largest
Shady
buffet.
Maple's still there also.
Still there,
Yeah.
world's largest buffet.
Yeah. We used to go with the kids, and in the beginning, we were low on cash, of course. We were both just starting out with the kids. We must have stayed in at least 30 different hotels over the years. But there is a gentleman, and he's still there, and I got hooked on collecting German beer steins. And I have close to 100 in the
Oh, wow.
house. Oh yeah, I never went really totally crazy for the Metlax, which start at $300. But the one company that was in business, it was the youngest company, and they went out after 80 years.
Hmm.
And I have quite a few number of their steins. And
I have
you
a
have
bunch
some of the
brought back
typical.
from Oktoberfest.
Those are, yeah, I've always dreamed of going to Hamburg during Oktoberfest, but
Well,
the
my
wife
boss,
was,
my boss hated to travel, but he liked to go to Munich for Oktoberfest. So you know, it's not, no matter what we were doing, it was like, well, we need to go over for a progress review. I said, we don't have anything going on in Munich right now, Dick. We're busy right now doing some work in Taiwan. And he goes, I don't want to go to Taiwan. And he would tell me, you have to come up with a reason so he could sell it to his boss. And I said, there's no he says, you need to find a reason. So I said, okay. So I came up with some reason, and he sold it to his boss, his boss then decided, yeah, it sounds like we ought to go. And I'm like, oh man, I've got this totally made up meeting now, you know, to accomplish nothing, just so Dick can get a free trip to the Oktoberfest, and now his boss is going. So I had to come up with something and get it done. But we were over there, and Carol came over on one of the trips. And I would always get like an Opel Kadett or something to drive around. But my boss would make sure he rented a pretty good high-end Mercedes. So I said, the hell with it. If he's renting a Mercedes, I'll rent a Mercedes. And that's when we drove down to what you call it, the castle, Neuschwanstein and stuff. So, but it was like, okay, I'll you know, being out on the highway, driving along at 120 miles an hour, and you know, have to get back into Munich in time to have a beer.
So you were the guy, I was in the Ford Cortina or whatever.
Yeah.
And you were the guy coming up behind me in the Mercedes, flashing his high beams at me from 10 miles behind me, telling me to get out of the way because he was going to be on my tail in 3 seconds. Yeah.
Well, the first time I went to Munich, we were there for several weeks, and the weekend in between, I thought it'd be fun to drive over to Innsbruck. And so I got on the motorway, and I think I drive fairly well and fairly fast. Oh my God. They were doing the thing what you were saying, flashing the brights, but what I got a kick is they would race from accident to accident at 120 miles an hour, and then there'd be this 10-car pileup, and you'd go through it at 8 miles an hour, and then you'd race it at 80 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour up to the next one. And by the time I got off the Autobahn, I think my average speed had been 65 or 70 because all the accidents slowed you down so damn much.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Oktoberfest in Munich is a lot of fun. A group of guys I used to work with, we used to go every year and, you know, just had the best time.
oh, Munich's a great town, and
Yeah.
enjoyed it a
We were
lot.
close to like Salzburg and, you know, the Austrian Alps and all that. It's great, great location.
Carol has relatives in a small place. Is it Velden? Is the name of it in Austria?
Velden. It's
Yeah.
pronounced Velden.
Right.
It's spelled Velden, but it's pronounced Velden.
Yeah, it's
And it's
really
on a sea called the Wörthersee.
yep.
Is it in Austria?
Yeah.
It's in Austria, but you have a view. My cousin had actually owned a made over barn that was made into a beautiful house and with a view of Italy, northern Italy and
Yugoslavia.
was it Yugoslavia?
Yeah.
And we drove across the border one day for a dinner, I think it was.
Right.
It wasn't very far at all. It was really beautiful there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you get a breakfast in Austria, go over to Italy for lunch, and have dinner in Yugoslavia. You know, everything came together. I may have mentioned we got to go in a minute, and I'll help Scott with his question. But I had I flew so much. I had all these airline miles like crazy, and I mean I've got several million on American, for example, but. You know, I get home, I didn't want to do anything because I was always on the road, and, you know, get home, I'd build a bookshelf or something, but I had some miles that were going to expire. So Carol flew to New York, met my parents there for Thanksgiving dinner, and then they flew to meet me in Munich that night. And my dad, he didn't have a lot of vacation time left at the end of the year, but he flew over for the weekend. And so we were in Austria, and you know, we went from Munich over to Austria. We had a very nice weekend, but he flew back to New York on Sunday, and he went into the office. He had just seen everybody on Wednesday that I was to work with, and he flew in. You know, he comes in on Monday, and they said, you know, what'd you do for the weekend? And the guy was like, oh, I went to my kids in New Jersey. And somebody else says, oh, I went all the way down to see my in-laws in Delaware. And my father says, oh, I went to Germany, Italy, Austria, and England. And I said, why? He took out his passport. He had them all stamped because, again, he just had the time. He flew over Thanksgiving night. We spent days running around. He flew back and everything. But he got a big kick out of being able to say nobody was ever able to beat him for what they did for Thanksgiving weekend after that. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Scott, if you want to stay on, I'll stop the recording here, and we'll see you folks next week. And I hope, by the way, I know back east, Irv, there were some terrible fires. Were they anywhere near you?
No,
The fires are just west of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm near Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
So I'm quite a distance from them. I'm about 4 hours away from those fires. They had bad fires at the west end of the state where they had those floods from Hurricane Helene. All that debris is burning.
Yeah, it's
Charlotte
terrible.
area, it's